Hi everyone, it's Rabbi Jesse from 6th and I Historic Synagogue in Washington, D.C., and I am here to teach you how to make the very best pot of French press coffee you have ever had. So the first thing you need to start with is some really good coffee beans. I'm here in Washington and I've lucked out and have found some of the best beans I've ever had in my life, with a shout out to Compass Coffee right around the corner from me in the neighborhood. Great local coffee place. Any coffee beans that you like that you've landed on are going to be just fine, but you want freshly roasted, ideally whole bean, and then you take them home and you grind them yourself. But if you can't do that, you can work, just tell the baristas what kind of grind you want depending on what kind of coffee you're going to make. Today we're making French press, so that's a coarser grind. And you want to think also about what kind of grinder you have. There's the kind that look just like a blender that spin all the beans around inside them. And then there's the kind called a burr grinder, which just pushes the beans down through the grinder. That's going to give you the sweetest, most delicious coffee. So that's what you're aiming for. And then just follow the instructions on your coffee as to how much they recommend. We're putting right now in here for just a small pot, 4 tablespoons of coffee. Filtered water, no tap water. You want some really fresh, cold filtered water. Get it out of the pot as soon as it's boiling. And here's the trick. This is the thing that nobody does. Just saturate the coffee just to the top of it. Don't go any higher than the top, and let it just take like a tiny little bath in the hot water for 2 minutes. So we're gonna set a timer for 2 minutes. And while we're waiting, I'm going to tell you a little bit about coffee and Judaism's fascinating history of intersecting. Coffee probably first gets made by Sufi Muslims in Yemen, and Yemenite Jews picked up on it. It crosses over the Gulf and gets to Ethiopia, which is where we know there's a huge coffee industry today. And the Jewish population of Ethiopia just totally embraced the national drink, and they bought into all of the coffee ceremonies that were there. Jews loved the idea that coffee would let you stay up, stimulated late into the night. The idea of studying uninhibited late into the night was really, really popular. But early Jewish coffee drinkers faced a huge range of questions. Should it be considered a food, or should it be considered a medicine because of how it makes you feel? Turns out it's a food. We're lucky for that. And when coffee gets up to Europe, it was Jewish merchants there who brought the beverage to new cities. The very first coffee house in Europe was opened in 1632 in Livorno, Italy, by a Jewish merchant. England's first coffee house was called the Angel Inn in Oxford, and it was opened in 1650 by a Jewish immigrant from Lebanon named Jacob the Jew. And then 4 years later, a Jewish British person opened the second coffee house in Oxford. It's called the Queen's Lane Coffee House, and it's the oldest still running coffee house anywhere in the world. We got about 30 seconds left before we finish off our boiling right here. How have Jews related to coffee over the ages? Well, there was a lot of enthusiasm at first. The Italian rabbi Chizkiah da Silva in the 1600s wrote, "One cannot attain presence of mind without the aid of coffee." But on the other hand, Rabbi Judah Leib Narden in London absolutely forbade coffee. He said that meat fat was often brewed in it. Now, the word in Hebrew for meat fat, chalav, is very suspiciously similar to the word for milk, chalav. So maybe he wasn't quite on it. All right, that's our timer. Once your 2 minutes goes off, you're gonna take your boiling water again and now pour it up, finish off the top of your pour, get it all the way to the top. We're gonna go for 7 minutes right now. Just hit your plunger resting on top, and we're gonna sit and we're gonna wait for 7 minutes. We'll see you on the flip side. 7 minutes later and we are ready. You're just going to plunge that down. One of the best, most satisfying feelings in the world. And I promise you, 2 minutes of a little bath plus 7 minutes of brewing. And this is gonna be some of the best French press you've ever had. Of course, some of the most famous Jewish connections with coffee come from Maxwell House. When it was decided that coffee was acceptable to eat on Pesach because it was unsure originally, the Maxwell House company had the genius idea of packaging a Pesach Haggadah in with their coffee as a marketing gimmick. And of course, now Over 80 years since the very first Maxwell House Haggadah, the company's given away over 50 million Haggadahs. That's coffee. That's the special Jewish connection to it. We'll close with a popular Judeo-Spanish exclamation, which is café de alegría, coffee of joy. Cheers.